Hey everyone. Inspired by Gwern's latest article, LLM Daydreaming, I wanted to implement some of the ideas in the blog post into a series of scripts which work off of one another, and we'll talk about them here in a moment. But let's quickly read what it says here. Despite impressive capabilities, large language models have not yet produced a genuine breakthrough. The puzzle is why. The reason may be that they lack fundamental aspects of human thought. They are frozen, unable to learn from experience. They have no default mode for background processing, a source of spontaneous human insight. It says to solve this, I propose a daydreaming loop, a background process that continuously samples pairs of concepts from memory. A generator explores non obvious links, and a critic that filters them. So, this is the main idea. And I slightly tested this with ChatGPT, and I don't have the original prompt, but it was very close to the prompt that I used here, which is please create a sentence which you've never encountered and infuse it with great and unique insights. It was something like that. And it came up with this insight or quote, which says, patience is not the act of waiting, but the quiet skill of becoming someone worth waiting for. So I was stricken by this. I thought this was beautiful. Patience is not the act of waiting, but the quiet skill of becoming someone worth waiting for. I searched Google for this and couldn't find it anywhere else as written, and actually not even the general meaning. And I asked GPT-4o if it has ever heard of this phrase before, and it said it did not. And I asked several other large language models. So I thought, okay, well, this is pretty cool. So in that case, I mean, we are able to at least at times generate unique insights, which seems insightful and useful to us. And so I wanted to extend on this with some scripts. So there is like five scripts listed from A to E. So they are in progression from A, B, C, D, E. In a way, there's a great README. You can, of course, download this from Patreon. If you're not watching this, if you are watching this anywhere else from Patreon, you can find a link to the Patreon post below to download these files if you're interested. But the first one is an insights generator. We are using Open Router for this. Essentially, this is a class which calls the Open Router with a given model. You can change the model. So, and there are some really interesting findings that I want to share with you. And this just generates 100 insights. And you can use, and I also wanted to test if we can use JSON mode with other models. And we could, and they do return JSON response. So that was nice. So, like with Gemini 2.5 Pro and Grok 4, even though we are calling different models using OpenAI library, but OpenRouter's API. So let's take a look at what like this one create. This one creates the insights.json. So these are 100 insights that Grok 4 has created. And you can see, let's read the first one. In the symphony of forgotten dreams, true wisdom emerges when we harmonize the echoes of what could have been with the melody of what is. But if you look, towards the end, they get simpler. I don't know why that happens, but that's interesting. So once I've created this insights generator, I imported it into a combined insights generator where we can list a series of models and allow the insights generator to generate 100 insights from each and say to them the combined insights, which looks like this, but we also save the different insights from each of the models, GPT-4o. So quickly, what I realized is that Gemini 2.5 is the best at this for some reason. Like it's very good, and we'll get to the stats that show that. But look at the insights that were generated by Grok 4. They get shorter over time. OpenAI's does not. GPT-4o and Gemini 2.5 does not either. So that's something to keep in mind. Here we have our all combined insights, and we know which model they came from. So now that we have generated 300 insights, I wanted to create some kind of a critic-like system where, so that's why I created the insights tournament. If you remember, there is a critic model that filters the results. So I had my own take on it. So with the Insight tournament, what we do is we use the combined final insights, and then we sample 10 insights at a time, and we ask each of the models in sequence to pick the top five out of those insights, essentially. So let me explain this. So we have a large pool of insights, let's say about 300, and then we pick like 10 of them. And then we have our first model, second model, and third model. We first ask our first model to pick the top five, and then we save it. And then we grab another 10 of them, and ask the second model to pick the top five. And then we grab another 10 and we deduct these from this portion. So this gets reduced. And the five top picks goes into a new pool. And we repeat this until we essentially have the collection of insights. And then we repeat this process again until there's 10 left. And when we do this, there's the round of winners. Like the first round looks like this. There's about 281 insights in the original pool, and here there should be about 150. We can see the original source model plus which model was picked, last it was picked. Now I created this interesting script count.py, which you can find in the downloads, which actually counts. Let's run this actually, which actually counts how many times a model was picked and how many times a model picked itself. So let's go into that folder and run it real quick. So Python count.py. So if you look here, out of all the insights that won the round one, 64 of them were Gemini 2.5 Pro, 34 of them were GPT-4o, and 43 of them were Grok 4. And 40% of the time, Gemini picked itself. 50% of the time, GPT-4o picked itself, and 27% of the time, 30% of the time, Grok 4 picked itself. You would expect this number to be 30% on average, but Gemini's 2.5 Pro's insights are actually pretty cool. So let's move on and take a look at the round two. Let's run the script again. Now, 41 of the maybe there is like about 70 left. And 41 out of 70 is Gemini 2.5 Pro. And let's run it again for the third round. Now, 23 is now Gemini 2.5 Pro, 10 from Grok. And let's go to the last round, actually. And here we see that all 10 of them remain Gemini 2.5 Pro. I mean, this is pretty incredible. And when you go through these rounds, you end up with the final round, final 10 insights, which were all from Gemini 2.5 Pro. And like this particular one that says, empathy is the radical act of acknowledging that the universe inside another person is as complex, as valid as our own, was created by Gemini, picked by GPT-4o in all these cases. And the rest of them was picked by itself. So essentially, Gemini is the real winner here as far as this particular implementation is concerned. So this is what the C does. And then I wanted to go a little bit further. If you remember in an article, it says the background process that continuously samples pair of concepts from memory. So that is what the D does, the insights combiner. If you look, it looks at the final winners.json, which is also saved to the main folder. And essentially, it takes two random insights out of those and asks a model, which is in this case Gemini 2.5 Pro, to combine the two insights into a single new creative and unique insight, just to respond with the text. We're not using JSON mode here. So when you do that, there is 45 unique combinations that are possible out of 10. We get this. So, for example, True loneliness is the absence of empathy, where those around you mistake the archived map of who you were for the living universe you have become. So these become kind of complex, but sometimes they didn't make much sense to me. I've also included these results. Um, let's read another one. We judge ourselves by the map of our intentions, but others by the territory of their actions, condemning us to navigate a shared world on separate charts. So they're interesting, but I thought maybe like some of them didn't make sense. So that's why I created the insights combiner with critic. So here we are asking what the E does is it still looks at the final winners, and we specify how many combined insights to generate. Here we say 10 because D generates all of them, like generates, there's no critic in D, but in E, we go through the 10 insights, we shuffle them, and we create the unique pairs out of those. And we ask Gemini to again create a single new creative and unique insight. And then we immediately after that, we let Gemini to evaluate it. Evaluate the following insight sentence with a highly critical eye, determine if it is coherent, self consistent, useful, and insightful. And we are allowing it to return a JSON string for ratings from 1 to 10, and then we average those. And then if it passes the threshold score, then we save them. And when we reach to 10 insights that are generated, then we stop. And this is what they look like. For example, this one, the combined insight, it says we cease to be lost in the territory of reality only when our intelligence evolves from perfecting our own map, compassionately understanding in others. And here are the original insight number one, number two, the critique and the scores. But I still was a little bit, you know, frustrated that it almost always accepted an insight. Rarely. I mean, I could have upped the threshold to 9 or 9.5, and that would have done it all right. But I was hoping Gemini to be more critical. Maybe I guess one thing I learned is that like Gemini is really good either with creative writing or with wisdom, maybe for these insight generation at least. But maybe it's not the best, most valuable critic. So maybe these models do have some substantially different tendencies. I mean, the fact that all 10, I mean, out of all combined insights, there's 291 of them or something like that. All like winners, all winners were Gemini 2.5 Pro, and they were picked. Remember, we said that they were picked in a round robin fashion. Like we cycle through these models, and we pick 10 random and ask the first model, second model, third model, then loop again. So it's very interesting that this worked out this way. Might delete those, but you make what you will out of this. Here's a README that explains pretty well how this all works. Let me know what you think. Like I said, you can download it from my Patreon. Link will be below if you're not watching this at Patreon. But this was a really interesting read, and you can find this article if you want to read it at quern.net/AI-daydreaming. It's an interesting read indeed. Thank you for watching.